Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this Corona Diaries I'm going to be discussing a couple of massive brain farts in the country as a result of the lockdown measures. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So when I started these Corona Diaries, I started with my own personal observations of how the lockdown is going on. But, you know, as we're not really seeing very much, people around here certainly seem to be engaging. There's the odd one that you can sort of see not, but generally speaking, people are engaging with it. So you increasingly have to get how people are coping with it from the news. And there were a couple of news things. First of all, I'm going to discuss this sort of clapping for the NHS again, which is now happening every Thursday. It seems to last for several minutes. Except people are not just clapping now, they're banging pans and hooting horns. You know, as if clapping isn't obnoxious enough. And I've said before, I'll say it again, you know, I'm not going to criticise people for doing it because it's mostly meant well. But at the end of the day, what you are applauding is NHS staff being killed by not being given PPE. That is actually, it's not your intention, so I'm not blaming people, but that is actually what you're doing. Because unless after you've finished clapping, you're going inside and writing to your MP and asking them what they're doing to make sure that medics in their constituency are getting the right PPE and what they're doing to make sure that their constituents stuck in care homes suffering from coronavirus and stuck in their own homes are being admitted to hospital, then actually you're not helping the NHS and you're not helping your population. But there was a spectacularly cretinous form of this clappening. The clappening, maybe that's what we should call it. The clappening. The dummening is really what it was. On Westminster Bridge yesterday. I saw this on social media when I woke up this morning. So there's a load of people congregated on Westminster Bridge to applaud the NHS. All crowded. No social distancing. No. Load of strangers, all different households, all jammed together, clapping the NHS. The NHS who are telling people, can you stay away from each other, please, because you're not helping. You're not helping. But no, out they went. And this is utterly ridiculous, and it's this sort of stupidity. It reminds me very much because another thing happened yesterday. There was, or was it the day before, in America, in Michigan, I think it was, some protesters protesting against the lockdown, and there was this, someone saying, reporting, there was this one guy who was complaining about it, saying he can't get grass fertilizer. You know, he can't get fertilizer for his lawn. And first of all, the reporter seemed to be suggesting, yes, you can. But even if he couldn't, it was like, it's snowing. It's snowing here. What are you going to do with lawn fertilizer when it's snowing? And it's this sort of dumb. The people just not thinking at all. Really, what did they think they were achieving by going out into a crowd to applaud the NHS who are dying and watching their colleagues die to save people who are becoming infected? As a result of that action last night, statistically, several people will have been infectious and therefore had a bloody good chance of passing that infection on. Well done. That's really great way to show support for the NHS. But then there's another one. So I was reading a news story and I couldn't believe this. And I've seen some baffling behaviour in supermarkets. Really baffling behaviour. One of the things that in normal times really gets my goat in supermarkets. I don't get annoyed at people in supermarkets very often, but occasionally. And one of them is when you've got someone doing the shopping and then they're on the phone going something like, oh, I can't find it, what shall I get? And I just think in that moment, why are you here? Why are you here? The person on the other end of the phone is clearly the one who has the competence to do this task. You don't. So if they're at home looking after the kids, why aren't you at home looking after the kids while they come and do the shopping? Because they seem to know what they're doing. It's extra annoying when you get that behaviour now when we're having to do the social distance. So you're waiting behind them for them to finish there and you're just thinking, can you get what you need and go? Can you not have a conversation about the fact you don't know what you're doing? Why are you here? Seriously. But I saw on the BBC News some behaviour I've never come across and would never have thought of. And apparently it's people being afraid to put stuff back on the shelf. So they're picking products up and having a look at the back to see what it contains, to see if it's what they need. And then when it's not, instead of putting it back on the shelf, they're putting it in their trolley, even though they don't want it. And the reason is, and you could probably guess the reason, sensibly enough, they're afraid people will think that they're contaminating it, that it's somehow not the done thing to do to put it back on the shelf. Now, I'm going to say this at the moment. So the shelves are sort of getting restocked back. They're not back to normal. Like lots of supermarkets trying to give the impression that it's all back to normal now. No, it isn't. There are products that never ever used to be difficult to get. You could go in at any time, any day, and you'd be able to get it. And you can't with some things still now. It is a lot better than it was. It is nearly back to normal, but it's not quite. So we don't need people, we don't need people wasting food at the best of times. These people are buying stuff that they're not going to use. It's just going to sit in their cupboard until it goes past the best by date by a good year. You know, the thing you do when you clean out your cupboards and you go, oh, that went out of date 3 years ago. We should probably get rid of it. And you're just exacerbating that. Here's a plan. If you're worried about putting stuff back on the shelf if it doesn't contain what you want, why don't you do this? Why don't you go on the internet before you go shopping and use that supermarket's website? Yes, you won't be able to get yourself a delivery slot unless you're really lucky, but you can still use it to check the ingredients and make yourself a list. Why don't you do that? Because I absolutely, don't give me this, not everyone has access to the internet. No, they don't. But the people who don't have access to the internet are the poorest in society. They're the ones who, let's face facts, are not going to be browsing ingredients lists. This is a middle class problem. And it's got an easy middle class solution. Check the bloody internet before you go out. So that was one level of dummening. Seriously. I would just put it back, if I'm going to be honest. But if I was afraid of that, just check it beforehand and write yourself a list. Then there was the same article. I'm going to put a link in the description below. Same article. And this, I felt sorry for this person, but at the same time, behave yourself. So it says in the article, I'm going to read it word for word. This was done around, in Edinburgh. It says, for Sally Johnston, 40, from Edinburgh, a single cough while queuing outside a shop was enough to cause embarrassment. I don't have a cough. It was just a one-off because my throat was dry. But all of a sudden, everyone started turning around and glaring at me, she said. I actually was so embarrassed I had to leave the queue and go back to my car and go to another supermarket nearby. Now, I understand the anxiety about the cough. I'll be perfectly honest, because you do. I had a little cough this morning. It was just a cough. My throat was dry. Same thing. It happens. You cough. It's a natural response. It doesn't mean you're ill when you have a cough, unless you're coughing a lot. And but you can imagine the situation when you're coughing, other people around you going, oh shit. The heightened anxiety, I get that. I do get that. What I would have done in the same situation is I have just suppressed it, and I've been able to do that. You can't always do it. She hasn't been able to. Fair enough. You don't need to go somewhere else. For goodness sake. If it'll make you feel better, just turn around to everyone and say, it was just a cough. I don't have a cough. And leave it at that. As long as you've not coughed into your hands and then wiped it on people's faces nearby, you're all right. If people are going to glare at you, whatever, doesn't matter. Try and be sensible, please. Because all you've now done is made an extra unnecessary journey to go to a supermarket where maybe you won't even get the stuff you want. So yeah, and this, we're going to have to cope with measures like this for some time to come. People are going to have to start being a bit more sensible, and maybe think a little bit more about how they conduct some basic operations in life. But anyway, those are my thoughts on some observations. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button, and if you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.